Swag out there and bow.
What's going on, everybody? It's Webster Style, the man, the voice, the fragrance. And we're here with someone who, well, if you watch my content, you've definitely heard his name a lot. It's one of proprietor of one of the fragrance houses that I really come to love over the past couple of years. Is none other than the one, the only George Zaharoff. George, how are you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you very much. And that's quite the introduction.
Oh,
It's nice, it's nice to meet you in person. I think this is the first time we've actually spoken before,
yes,
right? And seeing each other.
yes. Yes, it's nice to. I know we've exchanged messages and voice notes over the years, but it is nice to, even though it's not in person, still meet you face to
Right.
face.
And you're a very busy man too, so this is great that we're able to do this.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate your time. Now, I wanted to ask you, I've seen a lot about your story. We've talked offline as well over the years, but one of the things that I've always been curious about is where does your love of fragrance come from?
So the love of fragrance, it's interesting because I realize that in the fragrance community, it's the love of fragrance, whereas with me, it's more of how do I express my artistry through fragrance. So I don't have 1,000 different fragrances. I don't have some of the individuals in this space are very passionate about their fragrances, and they'll have, some have 1,600 bottles of different brands. And so for me, it stemmed from when I was 19 years old. I was in Paris. I was thinking of doing my MBA. Louis Vuitton at the time had just opened a school to get a master's degree in luxury goods. And what they would do is that you would go to this master's program, and then you would be found a position in one of their fashion houses. And so I went there after I graduated DePaul, just to get my feet wet to see. And they're like, why don't you sit in one of the classes? And so at that moment, they were talking, it was a case study on perfume. And I remember that evening writing in my journal, because in those days right after Edison invented the light bulb, we used to write in journals, in diaries. And I wrote and I said, what is one thing that I could take all my visions and dreams and put into one product? And I go, maybe a perfume. And so for me, my love of perfume came with me being able to get the brand Zaharoff, my vision, out into the market quite quickly. And that's exactly what it did, now looking back in retrospect. So my love for fragrance was a little bit different than, some people's journeys. I used it as a vehicle to pursue my dreams. And so that's the answer.
Okay, you talk about pursuing your dreams, and one of the things that you've done over the past few years, and especially how we connected, was you really connected and embraced the, I hate the word influencer, because I always say I talk about what I love and talk about what I like. If you choose to buy it or it's something you want to dabble in, that's fine with me. But I think a lot of other people will really speak to the same fact that they talk about what they love. But I would say you really embrace the online creators so much so I would say you even assisted in the dreams of some fellow creators with the Z Creators line. How did that come about?
So when I first came in, now I come from brick and mortar. Remember, I've been doing this for 30 plus years. And I come from Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, where you always have to think about ways to keep things moving, And so when when we're going to launch the fragrance, Nordstrom said, George, you have no presence online. And for me, I was very private. I focused on my customers. I didn't care for online stuff. If you go from, I don't know, 18 and behind, you don't see anything online because I just focused on my customers, you know, in the stores. And so I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, I got to put myself out there. I put myself into therapy for a year because I was preparing for the trolls, which I think helped a lot because going into, I'm going to jump right back on topic, but trolling is a very interesting mechanism, psychological mechanism for both the troll and the person receiving the troll. So we'll just say that. And so, so when I got into this space, I look at all of these different influencers, and I'm like, these are little brands. You know, I could see each of these, you know, these content creators. I could see them as mega brands.
Right.
But I didn't realize the amount of, how do I say this? So I consider myself very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself very open with my knowledge. I try to mentor people. I'm out there. I try showing people my life. I brought them to my home. You know what I mean? Like I show people,
Yes.
I'm very open about myself, how I do my business, my products, everything. And because I think there's so much things going on behind the scenes, is that I then am low-hanging fruit to come after for some of the things that people feel are happening behind the scenes. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
I do understand.
And so I enjoyed it. And on the flip side, you know, when you're dealing with, like, for me, when I came into this space, I can't lie. Like I can't lie to Nordstrom or the Nordstrom's customer and say, oh, this is this, but it isn't. So you get kicked out. It destroys you. It ruins you. And that's the world I come from. And when you're around people that say that this is this and it's not true, and I called it out, I don't want to be negative, but these are some of the things that I've had to experience that surprised me, because in real life it wouldn't jive. And so it's been an interesting journey, let's just say that.
Understood.
Yeah. So I decided to there were 6 Zed creators. I wanted to give them a bottle, a box, and let them do whatever they wanted. I wanted to give them the experience of creating a fragrance, of what it goes through to create a fragrance. And I did. And, you know, out of the 6, 3 decided to leave, and the 3 remained. And I think we did a good job. I think it was very successful. And I think that you're going to see more of that in the future. That's, you know, for me, I'm done because I have so many other things going on right now. When we were doing it, I had 2 fragrances at the time.
Right.
And now there's 12, and we're selling out in different countries. I just don't have the time. It's a lot of work. The way I do it, the way I have to do it, the way it's done by Zaharoff, by George, it's also, you know, almost $1 million. It's a lot. It's a lot of money to do this.
Understood. Now, one of the things that, no, I will say, okay, let me back up. So with even the social media piece, like this right here, the blueprint of your bottle, I obtained that through a partnership you did with Red Essence, and that's what exposed me to your brand in the first place. And just getting my hands on Signature, and you know, smelling other fragrances after that. But during that time period, one of the things that really captivated me about, you know, you talk about your online presence, was your YouTube videos of you traveling the world and really giving an education about the different notes, the different components of signature. And I thought that was the way it was done was very engaging and captivating, in my opinion. I couldn't wait for a new video to drop. It was just one of those things that I had to watch because it was just so, it was interesting, especially at that point in time. I was very early on in my fragrance journey at that time. So seeing that aspect of it was very new to me. It's not something that I saw watching some of the influences that I
Right.
watched.
And it's still new. Like I
Yeah,
don't see anyone else doing it.
no,
And
not at all.
so and then what happened was is that we had the COVID,
Right,
right? So all of a sudden it changed everything. I couldn't get on a plane, I couldn't show, and so I got on a plane and I went to Turkey. I was filming for the next fragrance and I have them all, I love doing that. I didn't know, I need to do something with the channel. And as many people might not realize, I do a lot of this on my own.
right,
And so it's a lot. It's a lot of work. And I would love to do something with my channel. I would love to do more oil because, MON sources oil all over the world. And I don't know, many people don't realize it, but oils are a resource of the country. So I just can't fly to Indonesia and take a jug of patchouli and just fly home with it. It's considered like oil or, quartz or diamonds. It's part of their resource. So it has to
right,
have all the paperwork filed, all the which farmer or which collective, and it has to all be on the up and up. I want to make sure that we're not destroying rainforests, or I have children, little children working on, pulling like everything has to be done right. And there are a lot of fragrances out there that don't have the paperwork,
hmm
and so going back to what you're saying, I wish I could do more of the online content, and I will. I'll get back to it. I think I just need to find the right partner who could travel around, you know what I mean, with me to do this. And that's also not easy to find.
right. Well, you're only one person. You can't do everything.
And I do everything, like all the design, the
Right.
packaging, the fragrances. I work with Claude Dear from MON, who's incredible. And there's some kind of, have you smelled all of the fragrances, Alden?
Not yet.
I have to, because I know that I remember the interactions I had with you early on, because when I look at you, you are a Zaharoff man. Like when I think of who I create for, it's
Mhm.
it's someone like yourself who's out there living their dream. I think we've had this talk before,
Yep.
doing and going after their own dreams and aspirations. Um, so yeah, so I do everything myself, and so I have to pace myself. We're expanding into Europe. And today was the first day that I thought, should I postpone this? First day, it's taking me 2 years, lawyers, accountants, banks, oh my, so many tax, Francaise, the French tax, all of this other stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like I came to a point where I just felt like, am I, should I had to get an office, I had to get a phone, I had to get all of this stuff in France, in Paris. And today was the first day that I thought, should I just wait? Anyway, so yes.
Understood. If I remember correctly, Signature debuted in 2018, I think it was.
Yep.
So you go from 2018 to 2023. It's still weird to say 2020 whatever. 12 fragrances, but you're also expanding Zaharoff. I know you've I think some leather goods as well. What else is on the horizon for Zaharoff as a brand, as a luxury brand?
So there's the leather goods. We have the tobacco, the cigars,
Right.
and we have something else that I can't say yet.
Okay.
But yeah, so, and that for now is it.
Okay. I mean, like I said, you said already you're doing a lot. So every time you add something to the plate, there's one
Yeah.
more thing that you have to do. So I can totally understand how, you want to pace yourself. And, I think especially the growth over the past 5 years has been nothing short of phenomenal. And especially, I've, heard you talk about your story before. A lot of things happen as far as how things were with art before you had a fragrance, before you had the clothing line,
Right.
and just circumstances of life in the world just changed things, and you came back. And I have to say that personally, just I think it was 2018, so I really started getting the fragrances in 2017, I think it was. So I really just started then when I experienced Signature. And I think I told you, like, that original 60 ml bottle, I used it pretty much every day. I went through it in like a year. It was ridiculous. I always tell people, I was like, ladies and gentlemen, George has not paid me at all for anything.
Did
But
I get,
I always,
did anyone ever say that to you
what?
about you getting paid or anything like that?
No, 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 no. They never asked about that. But I always talked about Zaharoff. I've always talked about how
I know.
how nice it was, or how gentlemanly it was. I went to restaurants. I'm talking to waitresses. I said, "Hey, your boyfriend would like this. You should try this. You like when I get compliments, like you should get it with your significant other." And rose, I talked about rose a lot, especially with being so, in my opinion, unisex. Just like, hey, this is a rose fragrance I think you would like, male or female, because I've never been a big rose person, and smelling rose, I'm like, oh, this is really good. This is something that it's has that sweetness and that fluidness, but is refreshing, but it doesn't just overpower you either. I'm like, oh, this is really great. So you know, anybody watching this has probably seen my content. I'm wearing Zaharoff at least once a week when I'm doing center day. I just packed for an excursion I'm going on, and half the fragrances are Zaharoff travel fragrances.
That's
So,
awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. And your support means the world to me, especially in the very beginning, because it was very scary to put myself out there into the world, and it was
understood.
cool to see early on that some people were, huge supporters of mine from the very beginning, and I'm so grateful. And that, like you said, the poster behind you, that was with Steven. We did that for Fragrance Day. And we gave out 100 of them, I think, and we both signed a letter and we sent those out. Yeah, and
Yes.
it's the blueprint of the deco blueprint for the signature bottle. And if people behind you could see the red, it's like a solid red. So what there is, it's a blueprint of the bottle itself, and the red is the deco area, meaning the area in which can be printed by the printer. So what happens is it's given to me saying, okay, this is the area where you could print the Z logo, the Zaharoff, or whatnot. I see now that it's you see how the background is blurry? Is that something that Skype does or something? Is that one of my
Yes, unfortunately, yeah.
no. All right.
Yeah.
You don't have that. I have it, I guess. So yeah, so um oh, look at this. You know what? I never oh, look, that's better. Okay. Wow. All right. I kind of like that better. So anyway, so I'm just very grateful to you and to the many people who supported Zahar from the very beginning. There's 12 fragrances now. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
That's
Well,
crazy.
well,
Oh,
George, I will say this though. One, you make a good product, so it's very easy to support someone who makes a good product.
thank you.
Two, just your personality alone, once, even just watching YouTube videos, in my opinion, you were somebody who were very easy to root for. And three, like I said before, the way you just engage with the online community, I'm sure every experience wasn't the best. That's how it is with people and online in general. But
I love it. I love it so much. I just wish I could do more. And
Right.
what happens is that I hold myself back because I don't want to upset people. Like, do you know what I mean? But
Yes.
I would do more of it if I could. If I hold myself back, and it's a shame because this is the future of fragrance.
Hmm.
It's not going anywhere else. Like, if someone could say to me where fragrance is going to go in the future, it's this space. And there's a lot of individuals out there that don't like. I don't know if it's gatekeeping. I don't know. But I don't know how a small channel, like someone who loves fragrances and is passionate about it, how do they start? If they don't
Right.
have 100 grand in the bank to buy, all right, let's say 100 grand, let's say $30,000 to start their collection, to start buying fragrances. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. I agree. I tell people, one of the things I tell people all the time, I don't care how much it costs. It just, if it smells good on me, that's all that really matters. And I also tell people, yes, you're going to see a difference between a, say, $6 fragrance and $100 fragrance. Most of the time. Not all the time.
I
Most
don't.
of the time.
I
But you will go with what you like and just experiment. That's why I always tell people experiment. Like, literally, I'm looking at a bottle of what's called G Bellini. I picked it up at Lidl. It's a dupe of Dior Sauvage. A $4.99 fragrance should not smell that good now. It doesn't smell one to one to Sauvage, but I was surprised. I'm like, this is potent. It has a good smell, great longevity, projection. One of my friends, I told him, and he loves Sauvage. He smelled it. He's like, I get more compliments with this than I do the real thing. And it's $4.99. So I say I always tell people, look, don't worry about what's niche, what's designer. Just go with what you like.
That's right. I agree. And there's a lot of snobs.
Yes.
There's a lot of gatekeeping, and so for even niche, there's a group, and there's groups. It's almost like high school cafeteria. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yes.
have individuals that like fragrances from a certain era, from the 80s or 90s. And so you've got niche from the 90s, you've got designer groups, and then you have the dupes, as you call it, and then you have the newer groups of fragrance houses like myself coming up. And it's a
Right.
lot of headwinds. There's a lot of headwind. There's a lot of tailwind too. But you gotta, I just have to focus on the tailwind, the support and all of that, and not pay attention to the headwind and just find a way to just get around it to go to wherever. And so you're absolutely correct. Find what you want. I was talking to my perfume house, and I go, those the $1,000 bottle of whatever, those oils. I want to have access to those oils, that type of quality. And they said, George, you have that. That's what you have in your fragrances. And I said, well, what's why is that $1,000 a bottle? And they said it's the coefficient of the brand,
Mm,
the markup of the brand, whatever it is that they deem it to be, is the reason why it's the price. And that's why like you said, that it's not necessarily quality equates to price. Do you know what I mean? And so,
yes.
yeah.
It's understandable. And I really, now with Zaharoff, one of the things I've enjoyed, especially as the line or the house has expanded, is that there's so many different varieties. And for me, when I give recommendations, especially houses, I like seeing different fragrances for maybe um different events, different circumstances. And that's one of the things I've liked with Zaharoff. I haven't smelled was it citrine yet, but I'm definitely interested in it, especially with how muggy it's been here. I'm like,
And then
man.
citrine, so you haven't smelled Coco Loco either, and
No, I
so
was going to ask you about that one as well, as far as the inspiration behind that.
okay, so those of you, like, there's people to make it easier how to pronounce Zaharoff. It's Za like pizza,
Uh-huh.
Har like har like, you know, funny, and
Yep.
then off like the switch, Zaharoff.
Zaharoff.
There you go,
Zaharoff. Okay.
Zaharoff. And so um, the citrine is a masterpiece, but in order, I wanted something that would rival the Hermes d'Orange, the concentrate that I wore for 20 years. And I think, just personally speaking, I think I pulled it off. It's the citrine is a masterpiece. But the thing is that when you have a citrus that sparkles, that has so much citrus, that gives you that gush, you can't pile it on the back end of it. So
Right.
it's not going to last as long as most fragrances. And so citrine is meant to be applied, you know, 3-4 times during the day to experience it. It was meant to be that kind of fragrance.
Right.
It was meant to be, it is that kind of fragrance because it's still around. And so I did something during the day, which was citrine, and then I did Coco Loco for the evening. So, you know, more of an evening sense. So like, me, you know, being at the beach in Mykonos during the day, wearing citrine, and then in the evening going to a club, to a bar, to a restaurant, and putting Coco Loco. So, but Coco Loco gave me whiplash because we sold the entire summer season inventory in 1 week. It was gone in 1 week, and and it was just like, wow. So I'm scrambling. I'm hoping, and the oil was just shipped from Man on Friday. So I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks to have it back up and running. But that was just incredible. Never happened ever. So yeah,
Well,
I got to keep nose on both of those.
definitely. I would say this, so that is definitely a testament to the quality of the fragrances you put out, but also the recognition that that quality has gone over the past few years as well. There are so many, like, I love the internet and Instagram, particularly just because I have been able to learn and experience so many fragrance houses, fragrance designers that didn't exist back in 2018, 2017 when I got into fragrances. And to see the passion that they display, to see how fragrance is such a part of what they do. And you were, as far as that whole ilk, you were really the first person for me that I saw really come out and say, okay, to display that passion. It's Zaharoff signature is very much you. Like, I see that and that passion and whatnot, as far as the collaboration with you and Clark. Like, I see that in your fragrances. I smell that in your fragrances. And that is something that I'm seeing, with a lot of these really smaller brands. Like, you get that passion when you put on their fragrances. And again, not to knock a designer or even some of the niche houses, it's something about the online presence, the connectivity with the individuals actually behind the fragrance, where you get to learn more about them and who they are, whether it is, not saying we need to know where you live, what you do, but at least your personality.
Right.
I think that bleeds a whole lot into people's perceptions of fragrances as well, especially when they're good. I can't say when they're bad, because if I don't like something, you won't hear me talking about it, because that defeats the purpose, in my opinion. But I really enjoyed that, and I liked that. And that's one of the things that made me gravitate to you as well, because of that passion. And then when you smell the fragrances, you know it's something that you put your heart and soul into.
And it's very true. Because I was doing fragrances in the 90s, and in 2001, I had to close everything down, the fragrance side of it. And so I had tried since then. So you're looking at 20 some years of trying to bring it back. And so
Right.
for to have, to be able to do that, it's very, very special to me. And the relationship I have, like with you or my customer or a Zed head, as we call them, the Zed heads, it's a very holy and sacred thing. And so, because you work, you're leaving tomorrow on a trip, it's for work,
Yes.
earn your paycheck, and you take something that you've earned and you give it to me in exchange for something I created. That's a very holy experience for me. And then to go to all of the different people that have to bring the actual fragrance together and all the components. And it's just really, when you really think about it, like, so even with the Zen creators, people think that this bottle with just box with the fragrance just shows up, and it's like,
Right.
no, the cap is this, the box, the bottle, the liner, the dip tube, and there's so much that goes into it. And so, and what's interesting is the thing with Claude. I don't know if the zeitgeist. I mean, because each fragrance is beautiful. Like, they're all like beautiful. Like, the collection is beautiful fragrances, and they each serve a purpose. And so the signature line is kind of what I call the best in class. So you want a wood, okay? You have the signature, which is a fougere, which is a kind of a retro futuristic. It really defines Zaharoff. And then, okay, you want something softer and more like a cashmere sweater. Well, that's Royale. You want something sexier, you've got X. You want something really nasty sexy, you have triple X. Like, want leather, well, the leather to back. You want a softer leather, a softer to back, well, there's regular to back. I mean, it's really a beautiful celebration of fragrance, the whole collection. And I told Claude, I go, Claude, the signature line is yours exclusively, until you quit doing it, or, you retire or whatever.
Right.
And so we have a couple more. We've got maybe 2 years of future coming, and they're all beautiful, and I'm excited about it. And then I have a private blend coming, which is going to be interesting. So it's coming.
Well, George, I have no doubt they're going to be beautiful based on what I've experienced over the years. But I am not going to hold you any longer. I know you got some things to do, and I got some things to do too.
I'm having fun with this, so I don't mind talking with you. But if you need to go, I'm good with that. I appreciate the time. Is there anything you want to ask me? Anything else?
I just want to pick your brain as far as how all of this came about, your passion, because I think I've heard you talk other places. And so I've gotten a lot of the story, especially pre 9/11, 9/11. I've gotten a lot of that. I wanted to know about your passion. I wanted to let you know, like, hey, these are the things that really gravitated me to you and your brand outside of just, you make some really good fragrances.
So my mother was a fashion designer in
Right.
the, and I grew up in the fabrics. I grew up in all of that. And so when I finished DePaul University, I wanted to go out and start a fashion house. At 19, I was 19 years old. And so at 20, I thought, when I still think about it like I was just a child at the time, but I had the, big kahunas to go out into the world and just show like this is my dream. And I've had to prove myself all the time. Even
Right.
having product at Nordstrom, every Monday, I would get a call with the buyers and go through all of the sales at each region, and so it was all about that. And so to be in the stores for 30 years, it says a lot
Right. It does.
about my drive and what I have to keep keep things moving and doing, and that's, I've been schooled with that, and these are all the ideas you see with me of trying to stay relevant, me pursuing my dreams, but I don't make it about me. I try making it about everyone.
Right.
That's including, hey, with Ross, let's do something together, or whoever, let's do, Justin, let's do this project. That's the world I come from.
Right.
And so, and then the finishing is from my time in Italy when I had the fashion house. I was actually in Italy, and then we came back. I had a license with the tailored clothing, and tailored clothing, you can't, you F it up. One little thing is off on a jacket, and it doesn't fit right.
Right.
The finishing. And so what you see when you open a box, you look at a box, you look at my cap, you look at the bottle, that's from my eye, the finishing of, people see it, and you could tell subconsciously, you might understand the way the box is made or whatever, but when you see it, it looks different than others because of the way it was made or the design.
Right.
So
I will tell you, it's very hard. I don't think I've the one bottle that I of signature I've totally used. I'm thinking I haven't thrown away any boxes. Like I still have the box in the bottle because like I can't bear to throw it away
I know, Eldon,
because it's so pretty.
Me too. Even from production, I don't want to throw them out. I have a box of boxes, and I don't want to throw them out. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I just don't. But I don't want to throw them out. I get it, and my used bottles too. I get it, and I wish like there was a way to recycle or. And I think about that too. Like, what can I do to reuse or recycle or something, And that's a challenge in itself.
Right.
But yeah, well, thank you, Eldon. No, thank you. But like I said, you've connected with something because you see something in yourself. You see something in Zaharoff that you see in yourself, that there's a connection, and that's why, I mean, you're a refined gentleman, and you're
Thank you.
a Zaharoff guy. You are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Good
boy.
stuff.
Well, George, I'm going to let you go because I need to go too. The night is getting long here. But George, let everybody know where they can find you online.
Zaharoff.com. You could find me on Facebook. There's a Z Lounge, which is a private. Are you on Facebook, Eldon?
Yes, I am.
Are you in my lounge?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yes, you are. Yes. So you could find me on Facebook. Find me on. You could find me on Instagram. I'm there on YouTube as well. I've got 2 channels, and come find us and have some fun. Join the Zaharoff family.
Thank you, George, for your time. I greatly appreciate it. I've enjoyed myself immensely, and you guys stay tuned for more. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your listening ear. Stay safe out there and be blessed.
Many blessings, Eldon. Bye,
Same
everybody.
to you, George.
Take care.